Welcome to our channel. Enjoy the video.
March 1922. Southern Germany. Hidden behind dense forests and open farmland stood a small, isolated farm called Hinterkaifeck. It was a place so remote that the nearest neighbors lived nearly a kilometer away. The silence here was almost absolute, broken only by the wind through the trees and the sounds of farm animals. But in just a few days, this peaceful farmhouse would become the scene of one of history's most terrifying unsolved murders. The people living here were the Gruber family. Andreas Gruber, the strict and aging patriarch. His wife, Cecilia. Their widowed daughter, Victoria. Victoria's two young children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. And finally, a newly hired maid who had only just arrived at the farm. To outsiders, they looked like an ordinary farming family. But strange stories surrounded Hinterkaifeck. Locals whispered about arguments, family secrets, and unsettling rumors. Even so, no one could have imagined what was about to happen. Then, the unexplained events began. Just days before the murders, Andreas Gruber noticed something disturbing. Fresh footprints appeared in the snow. They came from the nearby forest and led directly to the farmhouse. There was only one problem. There were no footprints leading back into the woods. Someone had walked toward the house, but apparently no one had ever left. At first, Andreas searched the property, expecting to find a lost traveler or perhaps a thief. He found nothing, yet the feeling of being watched refused to disappear. Soon after, another mystery unfolded. A set of house keys suddenly went missing. The family searched everywhere, but the keys were never found. Then came something even more frightening. At night, Andreas began hearing footsteps above the ceiling. Slow, heavy, deliberate, as if someone was walking through the attic. He climbed upstairs to investigate. Nothing. No person. No explanation. Just silence. As the days passed, the strange noises continued. Even more unsettling, a local newspaper that nobody in the family subscribed to somehow appeared inside the farmhouse. No one knew where it had come from. The previous maid had already quit, claiming she believed the house was haunted. Her warnings were dismissed as superstition. A new maid arrived on March 31st, 1922. She had no idea she had entered what would soon become one of the most infamous crime scenes in history. None of the family knew that, according to many investigators, the killer may have already been closer than anyone could imagine. Perhaps hiding, perhaps watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Coming up, as darkness falls over Hinterkaifeck, members of the Gruber family begin disappearing one by one. What investigators discover inside the barn will leave an entire nation horrified. The date was March 31st, 1922. As evening settled over the Bavarian countryside, darkness swallowed the isolated farmhouse of Hinterkaifeck. There were no streetlights, no nearby homes, only the cold wind moving through the trees. Inside, the Gruber family carried on with what appeared to be an ordinary night. But someone else may have been waiting in the shadows. Investigators believe the nightmare began in the barn. One by one, for members of the family were somehow drawn away from the safety of the house. There were no signs of a struggle outside, suggesting they did not expect danger. Whether they heard a strange noise, responded to a familiar voice, or went to investigate something unusual remains unknown. What happened next was horrifying. In the darkness of the barn, the victims were attacked with brutal force. The blows were swift and devastating, leaving them no chance to escape. One after another, Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and young Cecilia lost their lives. The silence that followed must have been chilling. But the killer wasn't finished. The attacker then entered the farmhouse. Inside were 2-year-old Joseph, asleep in his cot, and the family's newly hired maid, who had arrived only hours earlier. Neither survived the night. By sunrise, all 6 people living at Hinterkaifeck were dead. Yet something about the crime scene puzzled investigators from the very beginning. There were no obvious signs of forced entry. Nothing suggested the killer had rushed in or fled in panic. Instead, the murders appeared disturbingly controlled, as though the attacker knew the layout of the farm, and perhaps even knew the family themselves. Days passed before anyone realized something was terribly wrong. The family failed to appear at church. Young Kazilia was absent from school. Neighbors noticed the unusual silence, but in such an isolated place, it was easy to assume the family was simply busy. Finally, several neighbors and workers decided to check on the farmhouse. As they stepped inside, they were met with an eerie stillness. Then came the horrifying discovery. Hidden within the barn lay the bodies of 4 family members. Inside the house, investigators found the maid and little Joseph. The quiet farmhouse had become one of Germany's most disturbing crime scenes. But the greatest mystery was still waiting to be uncovered, because evidence suggested that after the murders, the killer didn't leave. Someone appeared to remain at Hinterkaifeck for days, caring for the animals, eating food, and keeping the farm running, as if nothing had happened. Who could do something so terrifying? And more importantly, why? Coming up, the investigation reveals chilling clues that suggest the murderer may have lived among the victims after their deaths, turning an already horrific crime into one of history's most haunting unsolved mysteries. The discovery of the body shocked the entire region. But as investigators examined the farmhouse more closely, they uncovered something even more disturbing. This wasn't a murder scene that had been abandoned. Someone had been living here after the killings. The farm animals had been fed. Fresh hay had been placed in the barn. Meals had been prepared in the kitchen. The fireplace had been kept burning. Smoke had even been seen rising from the chimney during the days after the murders. To investigators, this meant only one thing: whoever committed the murders hadn't fled immediately. Instead, the killer appeared to stay on the property for several days, calmly carrying out the family's daily routines while 6 victims lay dead nearby. It was a chilling thought. Every sound in the empty farmhouse, every flicker of the fire, every step across the wooden floor could have belonged to the murderer. Then came another unsettling detail. Neighbors later recalled seeing someone moving around the farm after the night of the murders. At the time, nothing seemed unusual. From a distance, it looked as though the family was simply continuing with their daily work. No one realized the people they believed they were seeing could have been the killer. As police searched for clues, they found surprisingly little evidence that clearly identified the attacker. There was no confession, no eyewitness, no definitive trail leading away from the farm. Investigators questioned relatives, neighbors, travelers, and former workers. Numerous theories emerged, but none could be proven beyond doubt. Some believed the killer knew the family personally. Others suggested the murderer had secretly hidden on the property before the attacks, waiting for the perfect moment. The unexplained footprints, the missing house key, the strange noises from the attic. Suddenly, every mysterious event reported before the murders took on a far more sinister meaning. Had someone been secretly living at Hinterkaifeck before the killings? Or were these clues pointing to an entirely different truth? More than a century later, those questions remain unanswered. And despite countless investigations, one mystery continues to haunt historians and detectives alike. Who was the person who stayed inside that farmhouse, surrounded by silence and death? Coming up, modern investigators revisit the evidence, examine the leading suspects, and reveal why one of history's most infamous murder cases remains officially unsolved to this day. The investigation into the Hinterkaifeck murders quickly became one of the largest criminal cases Germany had ever seen. Detectives searched the farmhouse from top to bottom. They questioned neighbors, relatives, farm workers, travelers, and even wandering drifters. Every clue was examined. But every lead ended the same way, with silence. Over the years, dozens of suspects were considered. Some investigators believed the killer was someone the family knew and trusted, someone who could approach the farmhouse without raising suspicion. Others suspected a former employee with a grudge. Some theories pointed toward a robber whose plan turned into murder. And one of the most chilling possibilities suggested the murderer had secretly been living on the property before the attack, explaining the mysterious footprints, the missing key, and the footsteps heard in the attic. Yet none of these theories could ever be proven. As the decades passed, witnesses died. Evidence disappeared. Memories faded. The chances of solving the case grew smaller with every passing year. Even so, the mystery refused to fade from history. Modern investigators reviewed old documents, studied photographs, and re-examined the evidence using newer forensic techniques. They proposed possible suspects and reconstructed the crime. But without crucial physical evidence, no conclusion could be confirmed. More than a century after the murders, no one has ever been officially convicted. The true identity of the killer remains unknown. Today, the original Hinterkaifeck farmhouse no longer stands. It was demolished about a year after the murders, but the story has never disappeared. It continues to fascinate detectives, historians, writers, and millions of true crime enthusiasts around the world. Because some mysteries refuse to be forgotten. Was the killer a trusted friend? A stranger hiding in the shadows? Or someone who had been watching the family long before that terrifying night? We may never know. What happened at Hinterkaifeck remains one of the darkest and most haunting unsolved murder cases in history. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more true crime mysteries based on real events, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Until next time, stay curious. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are true.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. See you in the next one.